Good morning or afternoon, depending on where you are, and thank you for joining today's webinar, What's New in the Latest Adaptive Insights Update. I'm Megan Turco, and I'll be your moderator today. Before we jump in, I'm going to briefly go over how to use the webinar console. The orange arrow on the right side of your screen will let you toggle the control tray open or closed, and at the bottom of that control tray, you will see a chat window. Please feel free to submit your questions at any time throughout the webinar via the chat function, and we will get to those towards the end of the webinar during our Q&A session. On your GoToWebinar console, you should see an area for audio settings as well. If you are calling in through your telephone, please choose the Use Telephone option. Alternatively, if you're using your computer speakers, please select the Use Mic and Speakers option. And additionally, I do want to note that today's webinar is being recorded. We will send out the slide deck as well as a link to the on-demand recording of the webinar within about 48 hours. So definitely keep an eye out for that email if you are interested in viewing the webinar after today or wanted to share it with any colleagues that weren't able to make it with us live today. And with that, I would like to introduce today's presenters. First up, we have Amy Morgan, who is a certified adaptive implementer and a senior manager on our Adaptive Insights team here at Armanino. She leads projects from pre-sales through implementation and all the way through to support. Amy's experience with Fortune 100 FP&A companies, coupled with 8 years of implementation and training, make Amy one of the foremost adaptive experts. We also have Ryan Clark with us today, who is a manager of integration and customizations here at Armanino. Ryan has almost 20 years of experience with all facets of designing, architecting, and building custom software that's tailored to his clients' needs. He specializes in making disparate systems work together through interfaces and integrations. It's great to have you both with us here today, and with that, I will pass it over to Amy to get us started.
Thank you, Megan. So today we're going to be going over the adaptive updates for 2015.3. These include introducing search on the modeled and cube sheets, faster performance, and a period summary table and discovery. And then also the item we're most excited about, being able to have account updates through the API. Next slide, please. Okay, for search on modeled and cube sheets, this is one that was just really visible. The search function that was brought over in standard sheets in the last update is now available on the modeled and cube sheets. And here you can type into that search function and hit enter, and it will find that next occurrence. Note that if you click on the down arrow or the up arrow, it will go to the next or to the previous incidents. Continuing onward, for the performance improvement, I'd like to follow this up with a question, actually, and that's that Adaptive went through and basically rewrote some code to make various pieces of the system run faster. Megan, would you mind reading off the polling question?
Certainly. We will go ahead and get it launched here for our audience, so you guys should see that on your screen momentarily. As part of this new release, Adaptive made some changes that should improve performance. Since September 4th, have you noticed faster standard sheets, faster modeled sheets, faster cube sheets, or does it just seem like everything is faster? And you can select all of them that apply. So we'll go ahead and give everyone a few moments here to get their answers in. So I see everyone's readily entering in their responses here. So thank you to everyone for participating. And if you have voted, now would be a great time to submit any questions that you might have in advance of Amy and Ryan's presentation. Of course, I'm sure that you'll have questions as we continue the presentation. So we do have a lot of folks here who have voted, so I will go ahead and close the poll in just about 3, 2, and 1. And we'll share those results here on the screen to, it looks like everybody's, or a lot of folks are on the same page. So Amy, I'll pass it back to you.
Okay, I realized we didn't leave the option of nothing's faster. So it looks like we're, whoa, went on to the next slide there. Looks like we're pretty evenly split as far as what appears to be faster. One of my favorite statistics to share is a client that had a sheet that took over 30 seconds to load that now loads in 11 seconds. I know that sounds like a lot, but there's a lot of data coming in there. So we've seen some pretty remarkable performance improvements. In the Discovery product, Adaptive seems to be introducing 1 or 2 new charts or grids per release, seems to be kind of their cadence. In this latest one, they introduced what they call a period summary table. I like to think of it as it looks a lot like a time span report in reporting. So we're able to have months and then quarters and the year summaries all coming in the same report, all in chronological order. That looks pretty nice. But now I'd like to pass it over to Ryan, who is going to go over the API improvement that we're most excited about. Ryan?
Thanks, Amy. Adaptive recently added in the ability in their API to both add and update GL account information. It's been a pretty common request recently. Sounds like Adaptive took some feedback and threw that in their API, and we're pretty gracious for that. Armanino has updated our custom Adaptive connector used in our integration packs to take advantage of this new feature. This slide here shows in Adaptive a new account that came over from our ERP system. If we go to the next slide, this is kind of a sample mapping of our backend system on the left side there, and on the right side are the different attributes that we have available for this new GL account update. And then, kind of just to put some context around what this looks like, this information here on the left side came from our source system. It has the GL account number, so different attributes there about the account, and on the right side shows the account details after we loaded that through the integration into Adaptive. This update will be available in our integration packs later on in Q4 of this year. If anyone out there has an existing integration and they'd like to take advantage of this new feature, or if you don't have an integration and would like more information about that, please reach out to your Adaptive project manager for more information on how to make that happen. And speaking of project managers, Amy, back to you.
Thanks, Ryan. I'm just so excited about this. Someone asked, what does this mean? Does that mean I have to run a process for the account to add? And it's, how we can set up the connector. You add the account in your GL, and boom, it's here in Adaptive. It's just quite exciting. Finally, the item we'd like to wrap up on is we've been having a request from several clients to create an Armanino Adaptive user group. And so we just wanted to kind of poll the audience and see if there was some interest in that. So wondering if you could take a moment. Megan, could you tee up the polling question, please?
Definitely. Oh, we went one too far there. Okay, we're back on it. So we'll get that launched for everyone here. This one's pretty simple. Would you be interested in participating in an Armanino Adaptive user group? And of course, you've got yes, no, and maybe on there. So this one should be pretty simple for most folks. But we will definitely give you a moment or so to get your mouse over here and get yourself voted. Looks like we're just about halfway there, so thank you for everyone who's already put in their response. We'll give everyone a few more seconds here to get your responses in, and hopefully we can utilize this information, to see what we can do to benefit you guys as our Adaptive clients in the future. So it looks like we've got most everyone in, so I will go ahead and close it in 3, 2, and 1. And it does look like we've got some decent response on there, Amy.
Okay. Good to hear. It was something we've been thinking about putting together. Obviously, there'd be some effort involved with that, so I wanted to make sure there was interest. As a follow-up question, in the follow-up survey we send out at the end of this call today, we'll be asking if there's any specific topics you'd like us to cover in that user group, or kind of looking at what are some of the things you're looking at getting out of that user group. So just to recap, we covered Adaptive's new search on the modeled and cube sheets, faster performance, looks like it was pretty uniformly experienced, and the new period summary table. And then we talked about the new API update, which means now that the connector can automatically update your GL account information. So with that, we'd just like to wrap it up and ask if anyone had any questions.
So we do have a few questions that came in, and of course you are definitely welcome to submit your additional questions. Obviously this was a quick one today, our webinar, so if you have your questions, feel free to submit them now, and we might be able to get everyone off a little early today and get back to your days. So one of our first questions was actually, when is the next adaptive release?
Adaptive changed their release schedule. It used to be that they had a set number of things they were going to get in the release, and when the items were all coded and tested and done, they'd make the release. They've now gone to a new methodology they're calling, it's kind of like the train's going to be leaving the station, I think is how they phrased it, where there's going to be a release on a certain date, and items that are coded and tested and make the release get to go on the train and are part of the release. And if it doesn't make that deadline, then it will have to wait till a later release. Due to that pretty important shift, though, they're now able to release all of the dates for next year ahead of time. So the other thing is they are going to be focusing on staying away from that third quarter releases, because that is very disruptive to large part of the population that's in the midst of budgeting at that time. So their new release dates are going to be January 15th, April 15th, tax day, and August 19th next year.
Thanks, Amy.
Mm-hmm.
Our next question could probably go to either of you, actually. So some folks are asking about how long it would take to implement the new, to get everything updated with this release.
Is that focusing on changing the connector, or?
I think it was came in during your session, Ryan. So I think it was probably regarding the connector specifically.
Ryan, I'll give that one to you.
Yeah, sure. Typically, excuse me. Typically, it's going to take, based on what the requirements really are, which a lot of them I think we're going to see is pretty straightforward. It's going to take somewhere between, say, 6 and 10 hours to get everything configured and updated to get the accounts moving over. So not much effort involved there. Do some planning up front and make sure that all the attributes are being handled appropriately.
Great. Thanks, Ryan. So I think that actually is just about all of our questions for today. But of course, if you do have additional questions, definitely feel free to reach out to Amy and Ryan. Their contact info is up on the screen here. But as I mentioned a little while ago, we will be sending out the slide deck as well as a link to the on-demand recording of the webinar. So you don't have to worry about writing down their info now if you don't already have it. You can definitely use that when the slides come over. So Amy and Ryan, thank you so much. And to our audience, of course, thank you all very much for joining us today. We'll get you back along on your day a little sooner than planned.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.